Tony, how are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, good. This is a really interesting potential client that you're about to start working on, and I wanted to just dive into this a little bit today because the client has roughly $3 million of EBITDA. So that's obviously very attractive for any business broker to work on. However, at the same time, you have to give the client the right advice so they can make the best informed decision and make sure as well that you are able to take a business to market that's sellable, that you've uncovered all of the challenges with transferring the business and how those challenges might influence the value perception from the buy side. So you've got the meeting with the client tomorrow as part of your first sort of discovery consultation, and you'll start doing document collection at that point, and I think you've done some already. But what's going to be your angle here? How are you going to get to the bottom of what seems to have been quite a large amount of fluctuation in EBITDA, and how are you going to attack this with the client?
I think the first part is to really summarize my understanding. And they've already given us a good amount of data as an initial step. And I have a narrative in my mind as to what is happening in the business, but I just need to now get some further context from the vendor and his accountant, who's also going to be present at the meeting, before we can sort of take it to the next level. So just getting behind those key assumptions and understanding the story behind the numbers. So this deal can make sense, because if it doesn't make sense to me, it's not going to make sense to a prospective buyer. So one of those examples is the treatment of gross profit. So a change of accounting firms 2 years ago has just meant that the gross profit numbers have been skewed. So I've got a couple of adjustments that I want to run in the back, but I've just got to check that off with the accountant. And then even just to get to some more fundamental understanding and ideas, which is like, what is this? The business is operating really well. It's a good, sound, profitable business. What is the business's competitive advantage in the marketplace? So I've got a couple of assumptions. I think that this business holds a good amount of plant and equipment that's very specialised, hence a lot of clients like to work with it. But I've just really got to get to some better understanding as to what is driving, why is this business on the path that it is at the moment, and what is the key to success.
We should probably just touch on as well, like what sort of business is it, first of all?
It's a civil construction business that does works for large water boards and authorities in the regions.
What's the approximate revenue?
Is $28 million last financial year. So it's gone up from 15 million to 28 million. So it's been operating for over 40 years. And last year has just had a massive increase in profitability. So again, tomorrow's meeting is really going to be focused on, okay, we understand that some works have come up, but what is the driver behind this increase? I have a couple of assumptions, which some of those assumptions are that, regional Victoria in particular has had a massive increase in development, especially on the civil and land side. So I'm assuming that's what's driving the growth, but we've got to now articulate this and understand, is this growth in fact sustainable going forward, right? Is it a one-off? Is it loaded because a couple of projects have really driven this growth? So just to contextualize and understand, and has this growth really put this business under stress from a resourcing perspective? There are a couple of important questions that are going to need to be probed tomorrow.
And how are you approaching this? I mean, as I mentioned earlier, working with a client with a roughly $3 million EBITDA is so attractive for any business broker. If you just apply a very simple rule of thumb, multiple of 3 times, that's a $9 million transaction. And, a lot of business brokers can already be out there, mouths salivating, already thinking of that check on completion. But there's so much work to get through. It's a really hard process, especially for a project-based business. How are you feeling at this point about the business, and what if the seller's expectation doesn't align with your valuation? What do you do then?
Well, how do I feel about it? I feel actually really excited. I am, looking forward. So I've had a few discussions with the director, although this is the first time we're sort of meeting. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've spent quite a bit of time analysing, going through the financials. So it'd be good to sort of put a face to a name. I've been around long enough to just sort of be truthful, honest, and upfront. Although this opportunity is here, there's no guarantee that we are going to see eye to eye and eventually list this business. I'm hopeful that I will, but can't get too excited about it. I'm just going to sort of be somewhat stoic and just take each step as it comes, make sure that we deliver, make sure that we're professional, make sure that we're honest and articulate in the way that we conduct our business. And hopefully that'll come through tomorrow and will give the vendor further confidence to proceed, and hopefully we can work together going forward.
And what's been the vendor's approach? Have they shared with you what they think the business is worth or what they want to achieve, or are they holding some of those cards close to their chest at this point so they can just see what objectively you come back with?
No, they've been transparent. I feel like the relationship has started on the right foot. So there's been both myself and the vendor have just been very honest. Nothing sort of held back to this point. So that's the type of vendor I actually do prefer to work with. Sometimes you get a little bit nervous if you feel like key data is being withheld. But that certainly hasn't been the case with this vendor. He's actually been really, really quick to respond, provided the information that we've required. There are a couple of little bits and pieces that I will further need to probe, but we had a long document discovery list, and that information has come back really, quite quickly and easily. So, yeah.
So based on what you've seen so far, then, what do you think the biggest challenge with this business will be?
Biggest challenge will be really the vendor at this point in time is wanting to separate the plant and equipment from the business. The plant is owned by a separate entity. So just getting around that point, because the more that I'm looking at this, the plant and equipment is absolutely key to this deal. Because I think that's the basis from which they are able to win a lot of work. Not having to go hire specialised equipment and having it at your disposal is a big feature and is a big win. So the vendor is keen to maybe explore a separation of those, but really understanding that dynamic between the plant and equipment, how important it is, how much it now needs to factor into the valuation, and what the structure is going forward, I think is going to be really important to this transaction.
So the vendor effectively has two entities. One is the trading entity, with the underlying EBITDA of roughly $3 million, let's say.
Yep.
That trading entity then also pays a hiring fee, or effectively an intercompany expense, to the entity that owns the assets.
Correct.
So the entity that owns the assets legitimately leases the assets to the trading entity, and the challenge is, just to summarise, is that the vendor wants to retain the assets, continue to lease the assets to whoever the successful buyer is, and sell effectively the goodwill from the trading entity.
Correct. So although the equipment is being leased at market, it is being leased on favourable terms, because the equipment is now being leased on an hourly basis, when in the real world it's actually not leased on an hourly basis, it's leased on a daily rate.
Mm-hmm.
So although that sort of provision in the financials for leasing equipment internally is roughly aligned to market, it may not be exact, and it is a significant expense item, especially when it comes to cost of goods sold, margin. So we now have to just work out exactly what is a fair rate. So this is where we're sort of now asking for some ledger reports, undertake some further due diligence as to understanding this arrangement, what it looks like. This will be a really important consideration when we finalise our report.
Do you think the seller is being a bit opportunistic, trying to split these up?
Well, this is what we have to probe tomorrow. What is the intent of actually now trying to split this up? I think the best situation will be to sell this as one. But why? What is the consideration? Is this just a backup? Is there another plan? So understanding and getting some further insight from the vendor tomorrow is going to be quite important.
I wonder if, because it sounds like the vendor obviously operates a very successful business and is very switched on, but I wonder if there's a why here that's not just associated to the best commercial outcome. I wonder if there's another reason why he wants to hold on to those assets or keep some connection with the trading entity.
Well, what I understand so far is that the two entities have different ownership structures. So the vendor has the shareholding arrangement with respect to the trading business is different to that of the entity that owns the plant and equipment. So you could have two different directives here because the two companies are effectively owned by two different parties. There is one mutual owner which has a considerable interest in both. So so this will be a point of discussion tomorrow.
Yeah, interesting. Mate, thank you for sharing today. I'll really be interested to see how this one pans out because it's an interesting proposition. It's a great underlying business, but you certainly have some challenges to get through as well. So, mate, really good luck with it, and keep me in the loop.
I shall. Thanks, Dan.
See you,
Cheers.
mate.